1 month after the Battle of Haven Colony, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different from before. Along its crystal walls hung both modern energy weapons and traditional projectile weapons. It was a simple change that showed a profound shift in galactic thinking. Admiral Thompson stood at the center of the chamber, but this time no one was mocking his primitive rifle. Instead, representatives from every spacefaring species watched with respect as he began the first-ever Galactic Defense Summit. "The recent pirate threat taught us all an important lesson," Thompson said, his voice carrying through the quiet chamber. "It's not about old versus new. It's about being ready for anything." In the front row, Captain Tom Miller sat next to Dr. Green from Research Station Beta. The alien scientist now wore a simple projectile pistol alongside his energy weapon, like many others in the room. "The pirates made one crucial mistake," Thompson continued. "They thought taking away our power meant taking away our ability to fight. They forgot that humans spent thousands of years fighting without advanced technology." The council leaders stood up, their silver skin gleaming. "Thanks to humanity's wisdom, we've begun a new program. Every military vessel, every space station, and every colony will now have both modern and traditional defenses." Screens around the chamber showed the changes already taking place. Alien troops training with mechanical weapons, ships being fitted with backup systems that needed no power, space stations installing manual doors alongside automatic ones. But more importantly, Thompson said, picking up an old-style rifle, "We're sharing knowledge that humanity has carried for centuries." He pointed to a young alien cadet in the front row. "Cadet, please join me." The cadet, a tall being with 4 arms, walked forward nervously. Thompson handed them the rifle, showing them how to hold it properly. "See this sight?" Thompson pointed to the simple iron bars on top of the weapon. "Your ancestors used something similar thousands of years ago. The physics hasn't changed. The math hasn't changed. Only we changed, thinking we had grown beyond such things." The cadet aimed the weapon at a practice target, following Thompson's instructions. With a loud crack, they hit the center perfectly, without any electronic assistance. "Amazing," the cadet whispered. "No power needed. No targeting computer. Just simple mechanics." Dr. Green stood up. "A month ago, these weapons saved my life when pirates attacked our station. Now, every researcher under my command trains with both energy and mechanical weapons. We won't be helpless again." Around the chamber, heads nodded in agreement. The Battle of Haven Colony had proven that relying too heavily on advanced technology could be dangerous. Now, the galaxy was finding a balance between progress and preparedness. "But this isn't just about weapons," Thompson said. "It's about remembering that newer isn't always better. It's about keeping backup plans. It's about learning from history instead of just replacing it." The council leader raised their hands, calling for attention. "In recognition of humanity's contribution to galactic security, we are establishing the Thompson Doctrine. All species will maintain capabilities in both advanced and traditional methods of defense, transportation, and communication." Applause filled the chamber. Thompson looked around at the changed faces. Where once he had seen mockery and dismissal, now he saw understanding and respect. Later, as the summit ended, Thompson walked through the station's corridors with Lieutenant Rogers. They passed groups of aliens practicing with mechanical weapons, learning to use manual tools, and studying old military tactics. "Quite a change from our first council meeting," Rogers said. "Remember how they laughed at our primitive weapons?" Thompson stopped at a viewing window, looking out at the stars. A training fleet passed by, ships practicing maneuvers using only backup systems and manual controls. "We never wanted to prove them wrong this way," he said quietly. "But sometimes the hardest lessons are the most important ones." "Sir," Rogers pointed out the window. "Look." A new ship was approaching the station. Its hull bore the symbols of all major galactic species, and its name was written in every known language. "Tradition." Thompson smiled. The galaxy had learned that moving forward didn't mean forgetting the past. Sometimes, The old ways were worth keeping. And somewhere in the darkness of space, those old ways would be ready when needed again. Space around Haven Colony erupted in light as the pirate fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Their black ships blocked out the stars, moving in an attack formation that had brought down 17 colonies before. Admiral Thompson stood on his bridge, watching the enemy approach. Unlike most modern ships, his command center had physical gauges and manual controls alongside the usual holographic displays. Enemy fleet holding at maximum firing range, Lieutenant Rogers reported, using old-fashioned binoculars to look through the reinforced viewing port. Counting 120 ships, sir. Thompson nodded. All ships maintain radio silence. Use the light signals. Across the defensive line, ships began blinking their external lights in patterns, an ancient form of communication humans had insisted on teaching their alien allies. The message was simple. Hold position. Wait for it. Sir, called out an alien officer named Blue Sky. Their main ship is powering up something massive. Energy readings are off the charts. Right on schedule, Thompson muttered. He picked up a simple mechanical radio, the kind that would work without ship power. All hands, brace for EMP. The pirate flagship's front section opened like a blooming flower, revealing a device that glowed with dark purple energy. For a moment, everything seemed frozen in time. Then the pulse hit. Every powered system in a 1,000,000-kilometer radius died instantly. Ships went dark. Computers failed. Energy weapons became useless metal. The pirates had just played their winning move, the same tactic that had brought them victory after victory. But this time, something was different. All ships, execute Plan Iron. Thompson's voice cracked through the backup radios. The defense fleet's response was immediate and devastating. Gun ports opened on the human ships, revealing rows of magnetic railguns, weapons that used simple electrical charges stored in isolated batteries. Across the fleet, alien crews who had trained for this moment loaded solid metal rounds into backup weapons. Fire. The silence of space was broken as hundreds of projectiles launched toward the pirate fleet. The pirates, expecting their targets to be helpless, had dropped their shields along with everything else in the EMP blast. Their black hulls offered little protection against weapons they had thought obsolete. Multiple direct hits, Rogers called out. They're breaking formation. The pirates tried to respond, but their energy weapons were useless. Some ships still had momentum and tried to ram the defenders, but centuries of human combat experience showed its worth. The defending ships moved with practiced precision, using minimal bursts from backup chemical thrusters. Second volley, load armor-piercing rounds, Thompson ordered. He watched as his crew worked smoothly in the darkness, using manual loading systems and mechanical triggers. Let's show them why humanity never forgot how to fight the old way. The pirate fleet, for the first time, found themselves on the defensive. Their advanced technology, their powerful weapons, their sophisticated shields, all useless. Instead, they faced an enemy that could fight without power, without computers, without any of the technology they had relied on to win. Sir, they're trying to retreat, Blue Sky reported, excitement in his voice. But their navigation systems are down. They can't calculate hyperspace jumps. Thompson allowed himself a small smile. All ships advance. Use the manual targeting sights. Don't let them regroup. The battle turned into a rout. Pirate ships, unable to fight back effectively, either surrendered or were disabled by precisely aimed projectile fire. The few that tried to run quickly discovered that flying blind in space was suicide. 3 hours later, as emergency power began to return to some systems, Thompson surveyed the aftermath. 87 pirate ships captured, the rest destroyed or surrendered. Haven Colony safe, its 1,000,000 inhabitants protected by what the pirates had considered obsolete weapons. Message from the Galactic Council, sir, Rogers reported, holding up a paper note delivered by emergency shuttle. They're calling this the most significant victory against pirates in centuries. Thompson watched as human and alien crews worked together, securing captured ships with simple mechanical locks and old-style restraints. The pirates forgot the most important rule of warfare, he said. Never assume your technology makes you invincible. Around Haven Colony, the stars shone brightly again, no longer hidden by black ships. The galaxy had just witnessed a lesson in warfare that would be remembered for generations. Sometimes, the old ways were the best ways. The emergency alarms in Space Command Center rang out for the third time that day. Admiral Thompson rushed into the control room, where a massive screen showed dozens of red dots spreading across the star map. "Another colony gone dark," reported Lieutenant Rogers, pointing to a blinking light that suddenly went black. "That's the fifth one this week. The pirates aren't hiding anymore." The room was filled with both human and alien officers. After the attack on Research Station Beta, many alien species had sent their military personnel to train with humans. Now they watched in horror as more systems fell silent. "Show me the pattern," Thompson ordered. A young alien officer, whose 4 arms moved quickly across the controls, brought up a new map. "The pirates are moving in a clear line," the alien officer said, his voice trembling. "They're using massive EMP devices, bigger than anything we've seen before. Each blast takes out everything in a whole system." Thompson studied the map carefully. The pirates had grown bold, combining their forces into a massive fleet. Reports said they had over 100 ships now, all painted black, like the void of space itself. "What are our losses?" Thompson asked, though he already feared the answer. Rogers checked his paper notebook, a habit that had spread to many alien officers after recent events. 17 colonies, 3 space stations, and 5 outposts, all gone dark. No casualties yet, but what? "But the pirates are taking everything, sir. With no power, no defenses, they just walk in and take what they want. Food, supplies, technology. The colonial forces can't stop them. Their weapons don't work without power." An alien admiral, his scales shifting color with distress, spoke up. "We haven't had time to implement the human training programs fully. Most of our forces still rely entirely on powered weapons. We're helpless." Thompson walked to the center of the room. Around him, officers from 20 different species waited for his words. Just months ago, they had laughed at human military methods. Now they looked to Earth for salvation. "Show me their next likely targets," Thompson ordered. The map shifted, revealing a dozen potential colonies and stations in the pirates' path. Among them was Haven Colony, home to over 1 million civilians from various species. "Haven has no mechanical defenses," an alien officer reported. "If they lose power—" "They won't," Thompson interrupted. He pressed a button on the command table. "This is Admiral Thompson. I need every available ship with human-trained crews. Priority alert to all vessels carrying mechanical weapons and backup systems." "Sir," Rogers said quietly, "even with our ships, we're outnumbered. The pirate fleet is the largest ever recorded." Thompson smiled grimly. "Numbers aren't everything, Lieutenant. The pirates think technology makes them invincible. Time to prove them wrong." Over the next hours, ships arrived from all directions. Human vessels led the way, their hulls marked with both energy cannons and traditional projectile weapons. Behind them came the few alien ships that had already adapted human methods, their crews trained in both modern and traditional combat. "Defensive positions around Haven Colony," Thompson ordered. "I want every ship running silent. Minimum power signatures. They think hitting our technology makes us weak." He patted the rifle on his back. "Let's show them how humanity fought before we had all these fancy toys." As the fleet moved into position, Thompson watched the alien crews preparing their new weapons. Some practiced with manual targeting systems, others loaded physical ammunition. They weren't as skilled as humans yet, but they were learning quickly. "Sir," Rogers reported, checking the long-range scanners. "Pirate fleet detected. Multiple signatures, approaching from Sector 7. Their EMP weapons are charged." Thompson nodded. Let them come. Spread the word to all ships. When the power goes out, the real fight begins. Around Haven Colony, the combined fleet waited in the darkness of space. For the first time in centuries, a major space battle would be fought with more than just energy weapons and computer systems. The pirates were about to learn why humans never forgot their old ways of war. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council looked very different from their usual gatherings. Instead of the bright holographic displays and floating data screens, the chamber was lit by simple chemical lights. The recent pirate attacks had made many species nervous about relying too heavily on powered systems. Admiral Thompson stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by representatives from 30 alien species. The same aliens who had mocked human weapons a week ago now leaned forward in their seats, eager to learn. The attack on Research Station Beta wasn't random, Thompson said, unrolling a paper map on the table. Some aliens whispered at the sight of such an ancient tool, but none dared laugh now. The pirates are getting smarter. They're using our own technology against us. Tell us about Earth's history, the council leader requested, their silver skin reflecting the chemical lights. How did humans learn these lessons you speak of? Thompson nodded to his aide, who began distributing simple paper folders. What I'm sharing with you is a summary of human military history, our victories, but more importantly, our failures. He pulled out an old photograph showing ancient soldiers. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. Each new technology changed how we fought. Spears, bows, guns, planes, energy weapons. But we learned something important. New doesn't always mean better. The chamber was silent as Thompson told the story. He spoke of armies defeated when their radios failed, of ships lost when their computers crashed, of soldiers helpless when their advanced weapons lost power. Every time we thought technology made us invincible, Thompson continued, something proved us wrong. So we adapted. We kept the old ways alongside the new. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. A blue-skinned delegate raised their hand. But surely your modern weapons are more effective. When they work, yes, Thompson agreed. But tell me, what's more effective? A powered-down energy rifle or a working bow and arrow? A dead targeting computer or trained eyes and steady hands? The delegate lowered their hand, understanding dawning on their face. Thompson pulled out his magnetic rifle, the same one that had drawn mockery before. This weapon can kill a target at 500 meters. No power needed. No computers. Just physics and training. He then drew his laser pistol. This can kill a target at 2,000 meters, but only with power, working circuits, and perfect conditions. And that's why you carry both, the council leader said quietly. Exactly. Thompson smiled. Humans have a saying, 2 is 1, and 1 is none. Always have a backup plan. Always be ready for technology to fail. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Species that had abandoned physical weapons centuries ago now debated bringing them back. Others argued about training methods, about combining old and new technologies. An older alien representative stood up, their tentacles waving for attention. I remember stories from my ancestors, they said. They spoke of weapons like these, of fighting without power. We thought we had evolved beyond such things. Perhaps we forgot too much. Thompson spread out more papers on the table. Training manuals, tactical guides, combat procedures. Humanity is ready to help. We can teach your people how to fight without technology, how to survive when systems fail, how to be ready for anything. The council voted immediately and unanimously. They would establish new training programs, combining human experience with alien technology. Every ship would carry backup weapons. Every soldier would learn to fight with and without power. As the meeting ended, the council leader approached Thompson privately. We owe humanity an apology, they said. We called you primitive. We were wrong. Thompson shook his head. No apology needed. Just remember, it's not about abandoning the new or clinging to the old. It's about using every tool available to protect our people. Later, walking back to his ship, Thompson saw alien crews already practicing with simple weapons. Some struggled with the weight, unused to physical combat. Others found their natural abilities gave them advantages humans never had. "Sir," his aide said, "they're calling this the start of a new era in galactic defense." Thompson watched a young alien learning to aim a rifle using iron sights. "No," he corrected. "They're rediscovering an old one." The lesson of Research Station Beta was spreading across the galaxy. Sometimes, moving forward meant remembering what you left behind. Captain Tom Miller crouched behind an overturned metal table in Research Station Beta's main corridor. Around him, the emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. His team of 6 Marines held position nearby, their old-style rifles ready. The sound of pirate boots echoed from around the corner. "I don't understand," whispered Dr. Green, an alien scientist whose scaled skin glowed faintly in the darkness. "Why aren't you using the station's automated defense systems?" Miller checked his rifle's magazine before answering. "Because, Doc, those systems need power. Right now, we're the only defense system still working." The pirates had split into 3 groups after their initial retreat. Miller's team tracked the largest group heading toward the station's data center. If they reached it, they could steal valuable research that could be sold to the highest bidder. "Team, remember your training," Miller said into his manual radio. "Just like we practiced back on Earth. Mechanical sights, manual triggers, nothing fancy." The first pirate appeared around the corner, wearing powered armor that now served only as heavy metal clothing after the EMP blast. The raider carried a useless energy rifle, probably hoping the station's power would return soon. Miller's team didn't wait. Their rifles cracked in the confined space, the sound shocking after years of near-silent energy weapons. Simple lead bullets propelled by gunpowder, a combination unchanged for centuries. Found gaps in the powerless armor. "Impossible," shouted another pirate. "Their weapons still work." "That's the point," Miller muttered, leading his team forward. They moved with practiced ease, using simple hand signals and basic tactics that required no technology to work. 2 pirates tried to rush them with shock batons, weapons that were now just metal sticks. Miller's team switched smoothly to their backup weapons, combat knives and batons of their own. The close combat was brief and decisive. "I've never seen fighting like this," Dr. Green said, watching from safety. "No energy shields, no powered assists, no targeting computers. This is how humans fought for thousands of years," Miller explained, catching his breath. "We never forgot the lessons." The team moved through the station methodically, securing each section. When they found locked doors, they used simple explosive charges, chemical reactions that needed no power source. When they needed to communicate, they used hand signals or basic radio units built to resist EMPs. In the darkness of the data center, they found the remaining pirates trying desperately to hack into the mainframe with portable computers that wouldn't turn on. "Drop your weapons," Miller called out. "Your fancy tech won't help you here." The pirates, realizing they faced humans who could still fight effectively without power, surrendered quickly. As Miller's team secured them with simple plastic restraints, he noticed the aliens watching with growing respect. Later, as emergency power slowly returned to the station, Miller found himself surrounded by curious alien scientists. They had gathered in the station's main hall, examining the primitive weapons that had saved their lives. "But how can you aim without targeting computers?" one asked, studying Miller's rifle. Miller pointed to the iron sights on top of the weapon. "Simple physics. Line these up with your target. Humans have been doing it for centuries. And these bullets, just metal and explosives. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most reliable," Miller said. "No power needed, no computers to fail, no complex parts to break." Dr. Green approached, holding one of the captured pirates' energy rifles. Its display was still dark, its advanced systems useless without power. "We thought we had advanced beyond such simple weapons," the alien scientist said. "We thought technology made us safer. But today, Today we learned that progress doesn't always mean abandoning the old ways. Miller nodded, cleaning his rifle with practiced moves. Humans learned that lesson the hard way long ago. Technology can fail. Power can be lost. But simple mechanics, they just work. Around the station, alien crew members began requesting basic training with mechanical weapons. The pirates' attack had taught them a valuable lesson about relying too heavily on advanced technology. As Miller watched an alien scientist learning to aim with iron sights, he smiled. The galaxy was finally beginning to understand why humans never fully abandoned their primitive weapons. Sometimes, old reliable was exactly what you needed. The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council sparkled like a jewel among the stars. Its crystal walls stretched high into the artificial atmosphere of Space Station Unity, where representatives from 100 alien civilizations gathered for what would become a historic day. Today marked humanity's first official military delegation to the Council. Admiral James Thompson stood straight and proud as he led his small team into the circular chamber. His polished boots clicked against the metallic floor, drawing curious stares from the assembled aliens. At his hip, a standard-issue laser pistol rested in its holster. But what caught the attention of every alien eye was the old-style magnetic rifle strapped across his back and the combat knife at his belt. "Welcome, human representatives," announced the council leader, a tall being with silvery skin who sat at the highest position. "We are pleased to finally—" The leader paused, compound eyes focusing on Thompson's weapons. "Pardon my interruption, but is there a reason your security detail carries outdated weaponry?" Thompson smiled politely, having expected this question. Around him, his team stood at ease, each carrying similar combinations of advanced and traditional weapons. "Standard human military protocol, Council Leader. All our forces maintain both energy-based and mechanical weapons." A ripple of whispers spread through the chamber. A blue-skinned delegate from the technologically advanced Meridian Empire stood up, their facial tentacles twitching with what seemed like amusement. "Surely this is unnecessary," the Meridian delegate said. "Our energy weapons have proven reliable for centuries. We abandoned physical projectiles generations ago." Thompson exchanged knowing looks with Lieutenant Rogers, his second in command. They'd had this conversation many times during a preparation for this meeting. "With respect, we find value in maintaining diverse combat capabilities." "How charmingly primitive," muttered another delegate, loud enough to be heard. Several others nodded in agreement. The council leader raised a hand for silence. "While we respect your traditional methods, perhaps it's time for humanity to embrace modern warfare fully. We can provide your military with advanced energy weapon designs that would eliminate the need for such backup systems." Thompson maintained his diplomatic smile, though his eyes hardened slightly. "We appreciate the offer, Council Leader, but our current protocols are the result of centuries of military experience. We prefer to maintain them." Before further discussion could continue, a young aide rushed into the chamber, interrupting the formal proceedings. The aide whispered something urgent to the council leader, whose silvery skin paled noticeably. "It seems we have more pressing matters to discuss," the council leader announced. "We've received reports of increased pirate activity in the Outer Rim sectors. 3 trading vessels have gone missing in the past standard week." Thompson's expression turned serious. "Pirates, you say?" He stepped forward, pulling up a holographic map from his wrist device. "We've had experience dealing with space pirates in our own sectors. Perhaps we could offer some insight." The council leader nodded gratefully, seemingly forgetting their previous skepticism about human military methods. As Thompson began sharing human anti-piracy strategies, several delegates leaned forward with interest. None of them noticed the slight smile that crossed his face as he discussed defensive formations and tactical responses. Later, as the human delegation left the chamber, Lieutenant Rogers fell in step beside Thompson. "They really don't get it, do they, sir?" Thompson shook his head. "They will, Rogers. Sooner or later, they'll understand why we never put all our eggs in one basket." He patted the magnetic rifle on his back. Sometimes the old ways are the best backup plan you can have. As they walked toward their ship, the weight of their primitive weapons felt reassuring. Somewhere out in the darkness of space, pirates were getting bolder. Thompson had a feeling that humanity's insistence on old-school backup systems would prove its worth sooner rather than later. Unknown to the dismissive council members, humanity's first lesson to the galaxy was already in motion. Some called it paranoia, but humans knew better. They called it preparation. Research Station Beta hung silently in space, its silver hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. The station was a symbol of cooperation between humans and aliens, where scientists from 20 different species worked together to study deep space phenomena. Mark Wilson, head of station security, stood at his post in the control room, watching the radar screens with practiced eyes. He carried both a modern laser rifle and an old-style pistol, which still drew curious looks from the alien staff after 3 months on duty. "More primitive weapons, human?" asked Chief Researcher Bright Eye, a tall alien with glowing spots across his face. "When will your kind learn to trust in modern technology?" Wilson just smiled. "Better to have and not need, than need and not have, sir." The radar suddenly lit up with multiple signals. Wilson's smile vanished as he counted the approaching ships. 7 vessels, no identification signals. Moving fast. He hit the station-wide alert button. "All personnel, this is not a drill. Potential hostile approach. Security teams to stations." The pirates struck without warning. Their ships, painted black to blend with space, surrounded the station. The station's energy shields flared to life, just as the first shots hit, deflecting the pirates' energy weapons easily. "See," Bright Eye said proudly, "our shields are the most advanced in the sector. Those criminals are wasting their time." Wilson wasn't convinced. Years of security work had taught him that things were never this simple. Why would they attack a well-defended station with weapons they know can't penetrate our shields? His answer came 30 seconds later. A bright pulse erupted from the largest pirate ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, every electronic system on the station went dark. The shields disappeared. Lights died. Even the artificial gravity flickered dangerously. "Electromagnetic pulse," Wilson muttered, already reaching for his backup weapon. They planned this. Panic spread through the control room as alien staff members tried desperately to restart their equipment. Their energy weapons, connected to the station's power grid, were now useless pieces of metal. The station shuddered as pirate ships attached themselves to the outer hull. Wilson could hear the cutting tools beginning to break through. "We're defenseless." Bright Eye's spots had turned pale with fear. "Our weapons need power to function. The backup generators aren't responding." Wilson pulled his old pistol from its holster and checked the magazine. "Not all weapons need power, sir." He clicked on his manual radio, built to withstand EMPs, and spoke to his security team. "All units, switch to mechanical weapons. Protect the science labs at all costs." The first pirates burst through the emergency doors, expecting to find helpless victims. Instead, they met Wilson's security team, armed with their primitive weapons. The sound of gunfire echoed through the corridors, a sound most aliens hadn't heard outside of historical recordings. "Impossible," one pirate shouted as his electronic armor failed to stop the simple lead bullets. "Their weapons still work." Wilson led the defense, moving through the darkened corridors with practiced ease. His team had practiced for exactly this scenario, though the alien staff had always laughed at their paranoid drills. The pirates, caught completely off guard by the functioning weapons, began to retreat. They had expected an easy raid once their EMP took down the station's defenses. Instead, they faced determined humans with weapons that needed no power source beyond simple chemistry and physics. 2 hours later, as emergency power finally came back online, Wilson stood in the control room making his report. 3 pirates captured, no serious injuries among the station crew, and minimal damage to the facility. Bright Eye approached Wilson, his spots now glowing with a different kind of light. Respect. I believe I owe you an apology, human. Perhaps there is wisdom in maintaining alternative methods. Wilson safeguarded his pistol and smiled. It's not about old or new, sir. It's about being ready for anything. He looked at the captured pirates being led away. Though sometimes, the old ways work just fine. As repair crews worked to restore full power, word of the failed raid spread quickly through nearby sectors. The pirates had learned a costly lesson about human preparedness, but they weren't the only ones. Throughout the station, alien scientists began asking their human colleagues about these primitive weapons that had saved their lives. The second lesson had been taught, and this time, the galaxy was paying attention.